everybody, what's up? It's Kyle and KZ.
More people get their voice out there, then I think they'll realize like we're all the same, really.
KZ decided, let's do it. Took the bait, so here we are.
Veteran Chat Project.
Where it's encouraged to not be okay all the time.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle.
And KZ.
And we are the Veteran Chat Project. Coming at you with a special episode. All our episodes are special, but this one's going to be a little extra special because I started out in cartoon mode and they did not know it was coming. Let me go ahead and turn that off while KZ brings in our guest.
Yeah, today's I'm excited for today's guest. I've heard a lot about this individual we got on, Kyle Braun, from our one of our first hosts that everyone met, Justin Barton. He talked nonstop about this guy. So I'm super excited to meet him virtually. Kyle, how you doing, man?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I've heard just as much from you guys from Barton as you guys heard about me. Can't be more excited to be on the show, though. I love what you guys are doing. I really do. I appreciate what you guys are trying to put out there. Break down some barriers, man. Get people to speak about their experience and realize that we're all in the same boat.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. That's what that's what I talked to you on the phone about. Just mentioning that there's a bunch of podcasts out there and a bunch of social media stuff about those cool ass gunslingers that had the tabs and the secret squirrel badges. I love them to death, but I just want me and I'm gonna say Turner for this entire episode. I'm gonna say Turner.
It's all good.
Me and Turner we decided there needs to be a platform out there for the rest of us, the ones who just served 3 years, 4 years, 20 years, that did their service, got out, but had scars too. And it's hard to share those scars when you're overshadowed by those massive giants, individuals. So
no question. I mean, I feel like one of the hardest parts of getting out without deploying was having your entire military career reduced to
Oh yeah. We'll get into that.
Just like a scoff, like a walk away.
And it's just like, all right, dude. Yeah.
Especially because like I've been tapped into a little bit of your resume, like for them to not even know like what you've done, and then just to be like, well, you didn't deploy. Well, like, well, dude, come on, like, what did you do during that time frame?
Dude, it also cracks me up as if like deploying was my choice. I had no say on where I go, and I'll dive a little into it too because it gets a little deeper than that. Being having command come down asking for volunteers 3 times and going to top and being like, hey, I'm down to go, like, that's kind of what I'm here for. And not only being dismissed but being called a shiny penny has stuck with me a little bit. No one drops a shiny penny. And it's so like, if you guys dug into my military service, like I'm pretty proud of what I did, but at the same time I was writing NCOERs at a higher level, and that restricted me in ways I wasn't ready for. So it was a great experience, but it's unique to everybody in a way that's kind of uniform to everybody. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's back up a little bit if you don't mind, Kyle. So we I heard about you from Justin. What you mind telling our listeners in Turner, like what when did you join the Army?
So graduated high school. I was born and raised in Bergen County, New Jersey. Graduated high school in 2009. And I had the conversation with the parents. Like, I knew from the minute I knew what the military was that I wanted to be a part of that. Call it national pride or just playing with GI Joes. Whatever it was, I was motivated. And my mom was like, "Dude, go to college. You're a smart guy. Go to college." And I was like, "All right, let me go." I did 1 semester, and I fucking see you later. This is not for me. So I got into the service very early 2011, like January 2011. Did the whole Knox trip, 17 weeks at Knox. Never want to go back to Kentucky ever again. Like Barton, I think Barton's wife's like from Kentucky, and he's mentioned like going out there, and I'm like, you would have to hog tie me and drag me across state lines because I'm not going back there voluntarily.
Yeah, in Kentucky during that, like, no thanks. I didn't mind flat through the summer, so it was the complete opposite.
No, dude, and like
still,
we did the
go back there.
the group formations with your water canteen held in front of you, and then you dump it. And I was like one of the few guys that put hot water in my canteen, so all steam's coming up around me, and drills are just like, look at this motherfucker. And I'm like, oh, all right, my bad. Learned real quick not to be an individual, you know?
Yeah, don't shine out. Like you said, don't be that shiny penny.
Oh, dude, that was a learning experience. But yeah, did my time at Knox and came up on orders and went right to Bliss, and that's where I stayed until I got out late 2014. So I did just about 4 years, all with 1/6 Infantry, 2nd Battalion, 1st Armored Division. Yeah, heavy metal, baby.
Why'd you pick tanker?
Dude, oh man, we should get my recruiter on here. Cause,
Did he show you the video? Where they were
yeah,
jumping them
where it jumps,
off the dunes
yeah,
and shit?
absolutely,
And they didn't show
100%.
you the mechanics being pissed at you when you got back with that tank.
Well,
Like,
they
why
didn't tell me
you
what
do
dry
that?
sweep was. Yeah. If someone told me what dry sweep was, I probably would have been like reconsidering, because my ASVAB score was pretty good. They basically said to pick a job, and I remember my my recruiter. I'll give a shout out, Sergeant Whitney. This guy. Well, actually, no. Let me tell you, I was supposed to go into the Coast Guard. My best friend growing up, he was going into the Coast Guard, and I grew up on the water. Always fishing, always boating. So I was fired up. I was like, if I can get paid to do that, let's do it. And but me being a rambunctious kid, like, I shattered my leg playing baseball. I tore my rotator cuff, had reconstructive shoulder surgery. So when I got to MEPS, I'll never forget her name. Last name Olga from the Coast Guard. And this lady, man, she shut me down real quick. She's like, "Oh, we looked at your medical records. You can't swim." I'm like, yeah, all right. Like, I have a pool. Like, I can swim pretty well. Like,
Says
so no
you.
shit. Yeah, so no shit. They
Swim.
bent me over the table. They did the check, and then afterwards they're like, "You're a
But they
no-go at this station."
They made sure to get that finger up there first,
They
didn't they?
did. Before they denied me, they did the probe. And I was like, all right, I'm in now. Yeah. So straight up, Olga, wherever you are, man, yeah, you denied me my entry. And Sergeant Whitney was, I swear to God, just lurking in the hallway like, oh, I heard it didn't work out. Have you thought of other branches?
Well, I'm here. I might as
And
well.
I'm like, yeah, I'm already here. Why not? And, we did the ASVAB. Well, I did the ASVAB prior, but he looked at my scores and basically gave me a binder of jobs. And my uncle was actually a tank mechanic in Vietnam. So,
Nice.
yeah, and, he really didn't talk about his service at all. But once I showed interest and I was serious about it, going to MEPS and getting everything done, he kind of broke it down a little bit of his experience, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. But I had to up him, so instead of fixing him, I wanted to be in them. I wanted to shoot that bad boy. So yeah, that's all.
Fix 'em.
Yeah, that's all it took me to say I don't want to be an satellite imaging analyst. Then let's go into combat arms, and that's it, man. I think it was a matter of months. I was on the bus going to Knox.
Hell
That's
yeah.
insane,
Dude, I still
When,
miss. You just said shooting a tank. I'm just like, in my head, I went back, dude, to sitting there at a gunnery. The only gunnery I shot, I got to be the gunner as a specialist, so it was pretty awesome. And I
Yeah,
just
that's great.
shooting a tank, dude, it's
That's a lot
indescribable.
of power in someone's
When you tell
hands.
people, like, dude, what was that like? You're just like, even people that like guns, you're like, dude, you see that? What here? My thing's in the way. I got an ab cap sitting back there. It's like, you see this? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, this is the base of a tank round. I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, this is all that's left of like this.
This is the
4
brass,
foot-
man.
this
Yeah,
4 foot
this is
device
the brass of the
destruction.
gun I shoot.
He's like, holy shit. Like, yeah, we'll see if we can get one from my buddy.
But no shit though. I think the awe moment for me was being a loader and seeing that breach come across my chest, and I'm like, oh, let me back let me back up, man. Like,
Yeah, I remember staring at that breach like during basic and just like woogoom. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Save the gun. I was like, all
Yeah.
right.
First time you're
Yeah.
like, up. Second term, you're like, up. Oh my God.
yeah, between the first load time and the second load time, there's definitely a difference.
Yeah,
A
dude.
little bit slower that second time.
Shit. And then, like, 3 rounds later, you're just like,
You're just in it. Yeah, you're just in it now. Especially when your gunner starts getting fired up. If you have a good crew and they're treating it like the sport that, it kind of is in gunnery, that competitive mentality.
Oh, yeah.
Man, you're telling them to cut off mic so you can curse off someone in the tank crew. It's fantastic. And as a loader, you're just
cut the
like,
jump.
"Whoop." Yeah, let's just. Yeah.
yeah, if you know, you know. Cut
And
the
then,
jump.
the verbal barrage that goes on, then it's just like, White Ford Golf the Tower, and it's just like, oh, what's up? Nothing. We just had a comms issue.
I had to cut the jump as the commander's gunner at our little dog and pony show gunnery in Iraq, and he was indexed. I think he was indexed either Sabo, and no, we were shooting training heat, so he was indexed Sabo and shot a training heat, and it went way off left to the range fans, and I was like, cut the jump. You know, I said it all super quiet, and he's just like, so what happened, Turner? All super calm. I'm like, sir, that was your engagement. You.
Let me ask
pulled
you.
the triggers. I told you. I said it. I said my part. I'm on the thing. It's recorded.
Oh man.
And he just turned.
There is nothing better than seeing a round just go off range, and you're like, oh shit.
That's gonna
We're gonna
land
be
somewhere.
standing down for a little bit. Yeah, we just launched a hunk of concrete somewhere.
We were in the middle of nowhere. I think it just landed in some. There was like a brickyard out there. Just a jump.
Yeah,
It
like
was
we were out in
surrounded
White
by
Sands.
nowhere.
If we hit someone in White Sands, they weren't meant to be there in the first place.
Oh,
But,
damn.
man, just watching tracers go off and knowing like tracers are what, like 1 in 3 rounds, 1 in 5 rounds.
Yeah.
So when you see tracers firing as a rope, you're like, dude, there's 5 times more bullets going than we even know. That's crazy.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
Gary's
so
such a
no
cool
regrets at
experience.
all picking that job. I mean,
Yeah, dude.
there's
I
no
remember-
comparing it.
I remember the one time we shot top tank at Fort Riley.
What?
You guys, because we were talking about the recordings and stuff. And for our listeners that don't know, like, you know, when you're shooting gunnery, or gunnery is essentially you're just qualifying your weapon, and in our case, our weapon is a tank. So, you know, and there's cameras in there just monitoring everyone, monitoring the entire crew. There's a scoring system. And I remember my guys being like super like not my driver really, because my driver was a gunner for another tank. He just hopped on. He's like, "You guys do your driver?" I was like, "Yes." But I remember my loader being a little bit nervous. And I was like, "Dude, there's nothing to. Gunnery is easy. This is fun." He's like, I don't want to
Yeah,
fuck
this
up.
is the
Yeah,
fun
just
stuff.
say all your
I was like,
things.
dude, this is the funnest part of our job. We're sitting 120 down range, and we're not killing anybody, so we're not in danger. This is fun.
Yeah.
I was like, how about this, dude? I was like, for the entire engagement, as soon as the cameras turn on and the mics are recording, let's try to lower our voice as low as possible. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like, let's just talk like this the whole time. He's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's like, yeah, but you're gonna focus on your voice. And I remember going back and like in the tower, like we're getting our scores and we're watching the video. He's like, y'all sound like fucking idiots. Like, yeah,
we
but
do.
But we Q1, motherfucker.
Right, and all that mumbling is us figuring our shit out.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Those
Very good
AARs
time.
were the best though.
Yeah,
Like
they
sitting
were.
in there with like the dude that's just there to criticize you, and you're like, so what was
at
that?
2 in the
engagement?
morning. Yeah.
So like I've done 4 gunneries or 3 gunneries, but only 1 as a gunner. Like once I
Yeah.
made 5, you know, that's when I took over. But I was shooting for my first sergeant, so like, it really was not the most fun experiences, you know, compared to when I was just a loader or a driver. Like we were just doing our shit. But when the first sergeant's the one looking at you, it's like, all right. And then I had my rangefinder quit, so I was doing manual ranges the whole time, and we still qualified, but it was just like, yeah, that was the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. You know, anyone can do it when it works well, right?
Yeah.
You know, when
exactly.
all the equipment works. So as a new E5, really battling the tank and then fighting the range, it was, you know, I'll never forget that. You know, it was a great experience. But man, that the first time you pull that trigger, or the Master Blaster, the first time I used the Master Blaster, that scared the hell out of me. I wasn't ready for it. Yeah. What kind of Looney Tunes bullshit is this?
That's how you shoot a tank. There's a little red handle that you go zing, 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 and that's how they tell you how to do it. You're like,
Oh
this
fuck!
motherfucker
Hey,
just say zing,
what's
zing, zing.
what's that shit called? Oh my god, I can't remember the terminology for it. Is it a hot start or where the mic off, where the master gunner comes up and like they're shooting they shoot the tank off. The turret unloads. The only
Oh
one that-
yeah, I know where they remote shoot it, remote
Remote
fire it.
shooting,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know what you're talking
Dude,
about. I think you're right. I don't know the name of it.
Is it? Yeah, I think it's the funniest shit to not telling the driver about what the fuck is going on. It's hilarious.
They don't need to know. You know,
They don't need to know. They're just sitting there like, whoa!
I need new pants.
What the fuck?
I'd be like, you
Get
just
back
said
in, put the
you-
CBC on. Hey, what happened? Like, what the fuck do you mean? What happened?
What do you mean what happened?
The hatch open. My ears are bleeding. Yeah.
Get back in the cupola or whatever and shut up.
Huh?
Yeah, traverse turret. We don't want to talk to the driver anymore.
Yeah,
Shut them off. Yeah. Oh man.
that's awesome, dude.
So
Real quick before we get to the transition part of your of after the military,
Yeah, ask away, man.
Barton told us, Barton's told me a lot about like your accomplishments in the Army. What are, if you don't mind, highlighting some of those, because I personally think they're badass, man.
yeah, dude, rattle off that resume. Let's hear it.
Yeah, well, it's been like a decade, so I got to think a little bit. Like in chronological order, I got into my unit early 2014. I think the first thing I did was German proficiency badge. You guys know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I can
It's
imagine. I haven't.
it's like a physical fitness / military drill that's done with the German Army, and it's basically their physical fitness standard test on top of their tactical readiness test. So I think it was like 2 or 3 days, and it was just all different events. You do a range, you do like a whatever kilometer ruck march. It was more like 12-mile ruck march. You had to do like a 500-meter swim. You had to do a long jump. You had to do a shot put throw. Yeah, so it encompassed like everything. And, I really love that experience because I knocked out that 500-meter swim to get that gold. So, Olga, you can fuck off. You can swim just fine. But, yeah, we get
that finger.
No, that was like a running joke with my dad and I for a long time because he thought I was going in the Coast Guard. My grandfather was like a reserveman in the Coast Guard. And for Olga to be like, you can't swim was just like the funniest thing in our household. Like, what a stupid reason to disqualify somebody. So, yeah, to get into the Army and, to be in the middle of a desert and be told to go swimming, I just thought it was perfect. I was like, this is great. Yeah, so knocked that out. I earned gold in that, which was probably the first thing that, showed my leadership that, I was right place, right uniform, right time. Like, I could do it.
That's
From
90%
there,
of the military right there, what you just said. Right
Yeah,
place,
really-
right time, right uniform. If you can do those three things, you're the
Successful.
You're the top 10% of the military.
yeah, and I don't know why I went back in the civilian world because
Slap PT
goddamn
on
it.
top of that, top 5%.
That is it, man. If you can do those 4 things, you are the perfect soldier. Like that's all you got to do. Yeah, so knocked out the German proficiency badge. Went into I think we did excellence in armor, which I know you guys are aware of. That's its own little tanker Olympics. Love that. And that's when I started getting voluntold, to go to Soldier of the Month. Won that a couple times. NCO of the month, we won that. And that's when Soldier of the Month, NCO came later. I made sergeant in 2 years, I think. So I was fast tracking at that point. But it was within my first year and a half or so that I got picked up for the Sullivan Cup, which, I had no idea what it was, and it makes sense because that was the first year they did it in 2012. But it was interesting because they had a crew designated, and for whatever reason, the driver loader of that crew were not allowed to go. They were separated. So it basically was like, all right, we need to put together a new crew that's going to represent the 1st Armor Division. Like, what can we do? And they picked one of the Joes I served with, Backer, who, he's like the greatest loader of all time. Like, no shit. He's like probably 5'8", stocky, strong. Like, he just throws those rounds around like they're nothing. He's just, there you go, under 4 seconds.
Loaves of bread.
There you go, under 4 seconds. So, yeah. So at that point, I was a loader. Like, I hadn't driven a tank except for basic at that point. And they came back and they're like, Backer's going to go as a loader. And like, we need a driver. So, Braun, you're in. And I was like, you guys know I've been here for like 7 days. Like, I haven't been here long and I've never driven before. So no shit. Like, I'm on my way to Benning and I'm like, wait, don't I need like a driver's license for this thing? And my tank commander's like, are you fucking kidding? He's like, you don't have one? I'm like, no, like I've never driven this thing. So he's like, oh God, like, all right, like we got to get you squared away. And Sergeant Dilling was my tank commander, and Sergeant Schaefer, I got to give a shout out to the crew. Sergeant Schaefer was the gunner, and I had never worked with these guys before. Like, they were in my company, but they weren't in my platoon, and they weren't in my tank section. So, like, really, it was just taking, the most capable guys of the unit at the time and throwing them into a makeshift crew. And what I loved about it was Sergeant Dilling knew I hadn't driven before. And when he sat me down in the driver's hole for the first time, he had me put on, what do we even call it? I forget now. CIV?
The CVC?
CVC, that's it.
I want to
threw
get
on the
one just to have for this.
Oh,
just to
I
sit
have
here
one,
and
man. I
see.
can go grab mine. They let me keep it for the Sullivan Cup.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I got to keep that. But he put the CVC, I put my CVC on, and then he hands me a bandana. He's like, blindfold yourself. And I was like, all right, what are we doing here? He's like, look, anyone can drive a tank, but not everyone can listen. He's like, so put on a blindfold and you're going to learn by fucking listening. I was like, all right. And no shit, that's how I drove for probably a week up until the competition. Like, I only had about a week or so of maybe 2 weeks. Like, it really wasn't time. Like straight up, they had a crew. That crew had whatever issues. The driver loader had to be replaced, and they just called us up. So I wasn't meant to be there initially. I was just stepping up to do the best I could, right? So yeah, my first and only driving lessons were blindfolded and listening to my tank commander, and that's how I got set up. And then we got the list of events. It was like a 4-day event over in Fort Benning. So we flew out to Benning, and we did everything from maintenance, where you had to replace track. We had to drop the breech, or I had to drop the breech. That was an independent event, so that was a learning experience, man.
Drop breech, dude.
Yeah. And for anyone that doesn't know, the breech is the main gun, man. Like, you're gonna drop the back part of the main gun that's inside the turret that you're loading the rounds into, and you got to do maintenance on that and put it back up. So that was something I had never heard of. Like, in basic, they did it once, and all I did was watch. So being told to do that was exciting. And, I'm really happy my buddy Foster that I went to basic with, was there. I had no idea, but he was competing against me, and, suck it, Foster. I won. Haha. But we competed against each other, and Foster was working on something, and he slipped and he fell back and he cut his head open, and they had to pause the event so he could go get staples. And dude, it was just like the funniest thing, because we're both like, we're both new, like, we're both new to the military, like, in general, but I for whatever reason, our unit saw something in us. But to watch him bang his head right in front of me before I had to go, so I get in the turret, and there's a little bit of blood over here, and I'm just like, fucking Foster, get a rag, wipe it down, like. But from start to finish, it was like a whole day of like maintenance, and then it was like a day of simulations, which was wild. Like, you're going through like an African village, and an IED goes off, and you got to maneuver through, like, panicking civilians and stuff. So again, I can't stress enough how new I was. So, like, yeah, I'm just going through this as best I can, treating it like the most real video game imaginable at that point. And then we did live fire drills, where you're not just shooting targets, but you're clearing houses. Like, you're going through an obstacle course, you're carrying a casualty, and then you get to the end, and you're about, I don't know, maybe 200 meters away, and you're doing shots on, terrorist targets with civilian targets. And, I'll never forget, there was, buddy targets like this, good guy, bad guy. Mm-hmm. And, Dilling is on the comms, and he's like, it's not worth the points, leave it. And you just hear backer say, I got it. And bang, drops the bad guy. And we're just like, God damn.
It is worth
Like,
it.
yeah, there he is, man. Like, that was great. And then we rolled into the gunnery, and the gunnery was a 2-day event, doing a full day of, live firing, and then a full night of live firing. And it was incredible. I mean, straight up tanker Olympics for 4 days, just doing nothing but tanker things. And
So
at the
badass,
end,
dude.
it was a tight competition. I think we won by maybe 5 points, 6 points. And I mean, that just speaks to Armor as a whole. I mean, we're all the best at what we do. I mean, any given day, things can change. I mean, anyone that's bore-sighted knows, I didn't know what barometric pressure was until I got into the Army. And now I'm fucking considering it. Like, yeah, you become a finely tuned machine, and that tank is just, your weapon system. That's all it is. And yeah, everyone's the best of the best. That day, we happened to be a little bit better, and that was it. But yeah, got knighted into the Order of St. George by General James. Command. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, that was one of the jokes. Was I was probably like the youngest member of the Order of St. George. Like they had to check my ID before I could like drink the Yingling and add the cup, you know. But yeah, it was great, man. I still got my Colt 1911 with Sullivan Cup first place engraved on the side. It's just fantastic experience, man. Really.
That's badass, dude.
That's badass.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was fun, man.
competition is definitely a thing. Healthy, it's healthy competition too. Even my wife, like she'll run, she'll come running up to me when she's on like scrolling through TikTok and she sees like tanker videos and stuff and like, is this guy this guy looks like he's loading super slow. And I'm like, yeah, it's fucking slow. Yeah, it's fucking slow.
Yeah, I look at my clock like, that's more than 4 seconds. Get the fuck out of here. You're a bolo at this station. Get out of my tank. But yeah, so once I got back from the Sullivan Cup, because I went in as a E3. I did that, whatever program they had where you had to do a PT test and take like a preliminary test and then get interviewed by the station commander. So I knocked that out, got my E3, and then after the Sullivan Cup, just waiting on time, got E4, and through the accolades or whatever I was doing, I was basically at points already. So they sent me to the WLC, the Warrior Leaders course, and did well there. Came out, got promoted, but the quick burning through promotions is also one of the main reasons I got out. We touched upon it earlier with the shiny penny thing. Like, I only served 4 years. I made sergeant in 2, and once prior to being a sergeant, after the Sullivan Cup, a request came down. Who's willing to deploy? Is anyone willing to switch brigades? We need rotations. And I volunteered and, was immediately shot down. I think we were going to gunnery. So they're like, no, like, we need bodies for gunnery. Like, you can't go.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, which, it's at that point, it was understandable. Like, all right, you guys asked, why not? But then I got promoted to sergeant. And, again, we're doing, I think we were spending, like, 250 days out of the year in the field. Like, we were in the field all the fucking time. And it's White Sands, New Mexico. Like, it's not like we were just hanging out. It was, in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, I didn't know that, sand could make you bleed until the first little sandstorm, and I'm getting, sand blasted, and I'm like, this sucks, Yeah. And no one told me how cold it gets in a desert. Like, fuck off.
It'll be 80 degrees and it's freezing at night, and you're like, what is this? Like, well, it was 130, 140 during the day.
Yeah.
It's a
I'm sitting there in like,
difference.
I'm sitting there in my like sub 30 below sleeping bag, like shaking. Like, what the hell is going on, man? I was sweating to death before. Yeah, not to mention the bugs. Man, I got hit in the face by like a moth, and I swear to God, I thought it was a softball. I was like, all right, dude, I don't know what this place is, but I'm not a fan of this place. So,
asshole.
Yeah, no kidding. But hey, any of the drivers that drive the gut trucks, thank you guys. Like, you really do keep the United States military running.
Absolutely.
No shit. Yeah, those guys are unsung heroes.
4 wheels right there, dude.
No kidding. You see that guy pop up?
You're like, hell
Oh,
yeah,
man.
gut truck! Like, motherfuckers would drop their rifle on the range and start running to the gut truck, dude. Just hauling.
Yeah. Just throwing their credit card.
Buddies, dude.
Give me
I
me a burrito and give me a monster. Let's go.
And he's triple charging that shit too.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
whatever.
No question.
$50 for what? Here, take it.
Three monsters.
Yeah, I don't
some
care.
Bullshit, fucking hot dog and a cheeseburger from yesterday. Sure, whatever.
No kidding, but
I
yeah,
didn't bring a lunch today. I'm actually the one that called you.
after 2 months of MREs, you'll do terrible things for a breakfast burrito. Getting promoted to sergeant, though, that's when it kind of hit me. Like, I'm no longer just in charge of myself. I'm now in charge of a tent crew, or not tent crew, but, a section. And, it gets stressful, especially when you're in a unit that's kind of shorthanded. Like, I know as a gunner, you're not really in charge of anything more than, your loader and driver, but that wasn't really the case at 1-6. I mean, once I made E5, I was basically in charge of a section. Like, we were just shorthanded, and especially with E6s going to schools and trying to get, their next rank, you're going to have gaps. So it really set on me that, I'm 21 at the time, and, I'm in charge of his tank section. Like, you start thinking, like, all right, especially when you're a 21-year-old E5 and you've got, like, a 30-year-old E4 that's deployed twice. There's animosity there no matter what you do. And I'm the first to admit I wasn't a great leader at 21. You know, I didn't know what a great leader was. You know, so it was a lot of learning of how to communicate with people and how to, you know, just kind of get them to understand that, you know, I'm not in this position because I chose to be. I'm in this position because I was selected to be. Like, you know, you don't really have to like me, but you got to know that I know my shit and I'm reliable. So that should be enough. But for some people it wasn't, you know, and you got to have, you know, sometimes things escalate and you got to figure it out. But that was also the best part of the military. Shit escalates and then it de-escalates and that's it, you know, you just move on. But it made me start thinking, like, you know, how high am I willing to go without knowing myself? I mean, deploying isn't just about, you know, getting a ribbon or getting a patch or you know, to me, it was seeing how I react in stress. You know, like, people don't know. I mean, I could be the cockiest motherfucker in the world telling you that I'll do whatever, and then shit kicks off and I freeze or I run or I panic. And, you know, I'm not willing to keep adding on responsibility and people under my supervision if I don't know how I'm going to process that kind of interaction. So when I made E5, that was kind of my breaking point as far as, okay, I will deploy either before I get out or before my first contract ends, or I'm going to re-enlist and go somewhere else. And that didn't work out at all. I mean, the second time a deployment came down, I asked, and I was politely told no again, but not in a definitive way. It was more like a not right now, but yeah, we see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Like, understood. And then it was pretty shortly after, I'd say like maybe 6 months later, I was approached by Staff Sergeant Carter. I had never met this guy before. Didn't know who he was. He approached me in one of the S shops. Was like, "Hey, Sergeant Braun, like, when are you gonna come over to a cab unit and help our guys like get squared away or something?" And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I do not enjoy walking, so never. You know, like, haha. But no, I ride tanks. I'm not going anywhere. And but he got me thinking. I was like, what are you talking about? So I started asking around, and apparently units have been talking about exchanging young leadership to kind of, I guess, fortify their own units, I guess. I don't know. But either way, I just wasn't told about it. Like, straight up, you know, and that's not unusual in the military. You know, I'm an E5. No one's going to fucking tell me the day-to-day.
Still stings, though.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's being caught off guard by someone that's, a higher rank than me that's like, you know, "Oh, you know, you're not coming over to the Cavs?" I'm like, "Dude, I didn't even know I was invited. You know, it's not on me." You know, I don't know.
Like, what the fuck? Like, I probably
Yeah, dude. And Sergeant Carter, wherever the hell you are, I mean, that was our first and only meeting. So, again, I didn't know this guy. It was just another instance where I'm like, what is going on? And how much control of my future do I have? And then that's when the final opportunity came down, and I went to my first sergeant and, you know, open door policy, right? So I was like, "Hey, Top, can we just talk for a second?" And I asked him, I was like, you know, I feel I need to deploy. Like, you're telling me I'm already E6 promotable, but, like, I'm not willing to take another fucking rank and more troops under my command if I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, it's stressful having a fucking E4 able to talk shit to me and back it up with his patches. You know, it's like, all right, dude, I understand. I understand you've been there. I get it. But, you know, you can't really hold it against me. Like, you know.
Respect
but it was...
rank. Not the man.
Yeah, but it was you know, it was a day-to-day thing, especially when our unit was in a high rotation. Like, people were leaving all the time, so we were getting new guys that were coming from Fort Benning or you know, Fort Riley that were coming off of deployments and getting their downtime. So they just look at me as a downtime soldier, you know? And I understand that, absolutely. But that was the time that I was talking to my first sergeant, and he's like, "You know what, let's cut the shit. Braun, you're a shiny penny. You know, no one discards a shiny penny. They pick them up, they put them in their pocket." And that's when I was like, you know, all right, like, Roger, got it. And
buck your pockets. I'm on.
yeah, so that's when I was like, okay, so I'm not going to deploy with this unit, so let me re-enlist and go to a different unit. And I sat down with retention, and I swear to God, we sat down in like a closet right next to the toilet, and he's like, "You can do 6 years here, or you can get out." And I was like, "You want me to do another 6 here?" Are you... No.
Yeah.
And it was that simple. I just, no, that's it. All right, thanks. And that was straight up me separating. Like, just no options, no real discussion. It was like, I was first armor till I die, which is fine. Keep me in first armor, but put me in 1-1, put me in 3-1, 4-1. Like, you know, they're all deploying, rapid deployment units, and, you know, you're just locking me down in one area where people already like, you know, I'm not ashamed of what I did. I did great competitions everywhere they told me to go.
Yeah.
I had a great time, and I did my best. And that competitive nature is what I thrive off of even now. But at the same time, I couldn't get past the fact that I didn't have the experience. I didn't have the understanding that these other guys have. And I see these other guys, the older guys, and I see how they're affected by their experiences. And I thought that was like basically what I needed to prove to myself that I was squared away. And being told no, I figured, what am I going to do? Spend another 6 years being told what to do? Like, I might as well go out and do things for myself. And that's exactly what I did. I got out and I used that GI Bill for all it's worth. And I don't have any regrets, but like I said earlier in conversation, it's a very interesting experience to have a civilian ask you about your military service, and then they always ask, so where'd you deploy or did you deploy? And you say no, and your entire military history, your career, accomplishments are reduced to, oh, that's it. Like, oh, sorry, I don't.
Whoa.
Yeah.
My cousin was in the special forces, or my
Yeah.
buddy did this, or everybody's absolute favorite is, I would have joined, but
Yeah. So
that makes you better.
Yeah. Just that.
No.
Oh, and it's just like, like, all right. Like, I'm sorry. Like, did your Hollywood experience tell you that I should have been doing something else?
Right,
'Cause-
and then like
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know, like if you're listening, then I mean, like, oh, well, he didn't have any choice. You get the orders you get in the military. I mean, we got a lot of veteran listeners, but I mean, if we grow outside of that, and you get the hand you're dealt, and it seems like you obviously made the best of that hand, in every situation throughout your military experience, which
Oh, yeah, dude.
regardless sets you up for the future. I mean, you got your, like you said, GI Bill, use that shit for all it's worth, and guaranteed that sets you up, which we'll get into a little bit, because that's definitely something. You're getting out, you don't have a plan, you got 4 years of a plan right there. That's what I tell people all the time is find a school, be interested in something, and pursue it. Use that GI Bill because it's there. You earned it. Fucking use it. So
Yeah, no question.
So let's talk about that a little bit. What did you? So let's see. 2014. You get out right from Fort Bliss, and then where you move back to? Where'd you move to after that?
So from there, I went back home to New Jersey for a brief period, and then a buddy of mine got out of the Marines around the same time, and me and him were kind of brainstorming what we were going to do, and a lot of people don't even know this part about me, but I figured why not? Let's talk about it. But my buddy's cousin had started a medical marijuana company out in California. So my buddy's a computer savant. Me, I was just a military guy. So they were like, why don't you guys come out to California? We're working on developing a delivery app. And like I said, my buddy's a computer genius, and I'm more of like a user interface guy. Like, button's stupid. I don't like wearing it. That's the mastery I brought to that discussion. But yeah, we spent like a year out there developing that app, and it went really well until we got a cease and desist order from the district attorney. That's just like, we actually don't like what you guys are doing. So
You can't do this.
which was interesting because it was medically legal at that point. But I guess California has like propositions that are like local ordinances. So they had different rules that were in place. And what sandbagged that one was we had a competitor, and I don't want to use company names, but they basically were an alcohol delivery service to like the college campuses and stuff like that. And they kind of like just forego like all the licensing and permits required to be a dispensary and just decided to transition from alcohol to marijuana. And that was enough for the DA to be like, no, screw this, like that shit's got to go, like it's unregulated, these guys are just doing whatever they want. So yeah, we got a nice little notice. And again, I thought back, I'm like, fresh out of the military, I'm having the time of my life out here, but I got a lot of benefits that I can't forfeit due to a petty arrest. So packed it up, moved back to the East Coast, and went to school, and knocked out my undergrad, here in Wilmington, Delaware. Knocked that out in 2 years. Being motivated to save as much time as possible, because if anyone doesn't know, your GI Bill goes by time, not by your degrees or anything. You get 36 months of continuous education. So I was taking, I think, like 24 credits a semester. I had to get like special permission from the school.
Dang.
Because I was just like, let's just get it. I took the military mentality and applied it to school. And that was funny, like having to get special permission because they thought I was cheating and shit. And I was like, all right, like, you want to quiz me? Let's do it, man. Like, let's go. Knocked that out, and then I started applying to law school, and that's what I did. 2017 to 2020, I was at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, where I graduated right into COVID. And
Nice.
you guys caught me at like a great time. I mean, I just resigned from my last job on Wednesday, so I'm totally living that civilian dream of figuring shit out without a safety net, you know?
Oh shit.
But like, not to get depressing though, I graduated law school in 2020, right into COVID, and I was scheduled for the multi-state bar exam. So that's a bar exam that's good for like 33 states, and it was all set. It kept getting delayed because they couldn't have in-person exams, so they did the first online exam, and I sat for that, and no shit, it was a 3-day exam. First day is multiple choice, last 2 days are all essays. And on my last day, I had 6 essays, or maybe 3 essays, but they're all in like subgroups, so whatever. But anyway, essay 3 that I was working on, like, you guys do online classes with like Blackboard?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have.
So you know those discussion boards where it's like a little, you get the prompt on top and then you get the little writing area?
Yeah.
Well, imagine trying to write like a multi-page, like, you know, essay in that little thing. So there's like a little writing area on the side. So, you know, the advice was to write it on the side and then copy it when you're ready for submission. Well, that was fucking terrible advice. Because as I went to transfer one answer, the whole thing just disappeared. Like, that was it. No, do you know you're about to delete X amount of characters? No, do you want to undo this? No, control U, nothing. Thing was just fucking gone. And I'm like, holy shit, that's not good. So I knock out my last 2 essays, go back, I try to throw something together for the one I missed, and you know, get off the test, and I immediately call the bar, and I'm like, yo, like, this just happened, like, what do we do? And they're like, we've got multiple, like, we're looking into it, is basically what they said. And I was like, all right, whatever. So, you know, you check in on them once in a while, but you're not getting anything. And then I get a letter in the mail, and it's my test results, and I fucking failed by 1 point.
Fuck.
I needed a 272, and I got a 271. And I was just like, so I call him back, and I'm like, all right, well, what the fuck? I mean, I told you guys what happened. Like, how do we address this? And they're like, let us look into it. And I get an answer like 2 days later. I get an email saying, hey, we saw what happened. We acknowledge you had a malfunction, but you signed a terms of use agreement, fully aware of the risks with this new test. Therefore, we're not liable to do anything. And I was like, I just got fucking lawyered on a bar. Like, fuck off.
Oh my
And
god.
yeah, dude, no shit, man. Like, no shit. And I was working at a law firm at the time. Like, I'm working for a nice Sherrard, German and Kelly, man, great law firm in Pittsburgh. They focus on like corporate law, and you know, really they'll do anything. But just a great organization I was a part of. And I went in there kind of deflated, and I was like, look, I failed by a point because of that issue. And they were straight up with me. They're like, look, you know, I don't know anyone that's really in the business of going after like the people that regulate our disciplinary boards. You know, like, our advice is to take the test again. And I was like, fuck. Like, all right, you know, like, all right, I understand that. That makes sense. Like, I'm not trying to make waves, but goddamn, that's some product liability 101 bullshit right there.
Yeah.
And no shit. So I took some time off. You know, COVID's still going on, so I went home. And unfortunately, very shortly after coming home, I found out my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer. You know, stage 4 lung cancer. Just boom. And I ended up resigning from Sherrard, German and Kelly, and spending the next year or so as a caregiver. You know, like, thankfully I had the support of, you know, my mom and my sisters. But my mom had to keep working. You know, she had to work. You know, so Monday through Friday she's grinding. So, you know, I took care of my dad, and you know, that's just what we do. And
Yeah.
so,
Absolutely.
you know, unfortunately he passed, you know, it's June now. And then, you know, it took a little bit of time, got myself back up, and then I just started looking to work. And one of the things that stuck out to me was after he passed was, you know, and this is a message for everybody, man, like, make sure you have a plan, you know, make sure you have a plan, like, whoever your primary caregiver is, like, make sure you have a plan for, God forbid anything happens, but make sure your finances are in order. Make sure you have a will in place, like, blah, blah, blah. Make sure you have, you know, life insurance or whatever will make a terrible event a little more manageable. Like, that's the best advice I can give you. And from that experience, I kind of was looking for a way to use my law degree without having to go through the bar exam again. So I joined with this company, and after a couple weeks, I was like, this is not a fit. Like, this isn't working out. So, so I just recently resigned, and I'm getting ready to take the bar again. But it's just like, that's just one message I want to get out to people is that this game doesn't end, man, and there's no map. Like shit's gonna fly at you, and it's reacting to contact. But just stay grounded and really focus on building those support networks. If you consider yourself a lone wolf, that's fine, man. But wolves travel in packs. You got to get your friends.
Yeah.
You got to get your family, and you got to, if you burned a bridge, fucking turn into Bob the Builder, man, and build that shit back up because it's hard enough with a network. It's impossible by yourself. So yeah, I mean that's my advice. I mean, as successful as I think I have been, dude, I can't hit a curveball sometimes, and you got to get back in the box and figure it out. So yeah, that's one of the big reasons I wanted to talk to you guys is because I feel like if I can struggle in the civilian world, anyone can struggle in the civilian world, and I just want to be able to reach out and be like, look, it's rough, it is, and there's fewer rules in the civilian world than there is in the military. But at the same time, it's the game we're playing, and I just don't recommend doing it alone. So, yeah, like I said, if you burned a couple bridges in your past, get your fucking hammer out and start nailing some boards together. Fix that shit. Yeah, get it going.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that basically brings me to today, man. Resiliency is key. That's it.
Oh yeah, we talked about that yesterday.
I swear,
dude.
man, that word just keeps popping up, man. We were
Resiliency.
on Vertical Momentum Resiliency podcast last night with Richard Kaufman.
There you go.
We did a 45-minute show there, and his big thing was asking people like, what is your definition of resiliency? So I mean, not to steal that from him, but since it came up, what do you consider that? Like, what would you consider that? Like your definition of being resilient?
My definition of resiliency is probably being broken but not being destroyed. You can break, man. You can take time to fix yourself or work on getting back up, but as long as you don't just accept that defeat and you don't just lay there and be destroyed, with no chance of reconciliation or resurrection, like that's it, man. Just no matter how beat up you are, just know that we got a lot of life ahead of us, man. I mean, I know a month of depression can seem like a lifetime, but try to keep that idea that it is only a month, or it is maybe a year or 2 years, 5 years, fine. But I think it was like, I saw a meme or a gif of like Judge Judy saying, like, if you're not successful in your 20s, you can be successful in your 30s. If you're not in your 30s, you can get your 40s. And then she named, like, I can't remember her name, but a prolific artist. And he's like, she didn't start painting until her 80s. And now she's one of the most renowned, like, painters, and it's just, that's it, man. Like, whenever you think you're at your end, just know it might be the end of that chapter. Yeah, and I'm a big video gamer, man. I'm a big gamer, so I always think of it that way. Like, that might be the end of the level, or maybe, you got to start over, but it's not game over. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, keep putting quarters in, whatever. Keep refreshing that page, but yeah, don't close it out. Like, you're not done.
Yeah, I like what you said there.
yeah.
I mean, we mentioned that a lot about as far as like chapters. That's all. I personally think that's all life is really. It's just a series of chapters in your life to just go by, and you don't have to be defined by any of them whatsoever. But
No,
they are.
In fact, I know it's cliche to say everything happens for a reason. Like, I get that. But at the same time, I look at where I am right now in this moment, like on this podcast talking to you guys, and, I see my family around me or my friends, friends I haven't talked to in a while, but like, you reach out again, and as you get older too, your perspectives change, your confidences change, like, your interests change, and someone that you may have disagreed with in high school, you now relate with that you didn't expect. Like, but what I'm getting at is all this shit that's gone on in my life has brought me to this exact moment, has made me exactly who I am, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. Like, yeah, I wish my shoulder didn't hurt like hell some days, but that experience is a part of what brought me here. So
Yeah.
not for anything in the world am I gonna switch that experience out just for a little bit of easier comfort. No, because I might sabotage something that would have maybe taken away my girlfriend or taken away my dog, or I'm not willing to trade any of that shit. And
Like
maybe
the
some
butterfly
people.
effect.
Yeah, right. And I
One little
understand some.
thing can completely change the entire like
Yeah.
foundation, and you never know it. You know,
No,
so many
exactly.
different crossroads that we've been at in our lives that you didn't really know you were there until you were like way miles past it. You're like, man, that shit could have went way different, you know, and then it's just ultimately, you know, thank God or thank whoever you believe in that, you know, we're able to sit right here and be right here and spread this message, man. And shit, dude, I appreciate you wanting to come on and talk to us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no
know-
question. And that's another thing too, is like I know when things are going well, people don't want to change anything, but when things are going bad too, like you know that's kind of like the character building at that point. I mean, I don't think I would have the mindset I do now. I don't think I'd want to be an advocate for people if I didn't experience some of these hardships. You know,
Of course.
like when things are going well and you're successful, I don't. I'm curious. You know, I'm not a super wealthy guy. I'm not someone that has other people taking care of my day-to-day needs. But I do think that if I was that person, I wouldn't be able to connect with anybody on my level. Like, I like to think that I'm the bluest white-collar person alive. You know, like I grew up digging ditches for, water utility with my dad being a 37-year supervisor of the water company. Doing construction was like my summer job, I wasn't caddying at a golf course. I was fucking jackhammering roads and fixing curb boxes. But again, I wouldn't change that because, I can now walk into a bar and literally talk to anybody about something. And Barton is Barton to a T. He can connect with anyone at any time, anywhere. And I think that is something that a lot of us can strive for because, I mean, again, this whole life is about building relationships and building your own person that impacts others, man. I mean, legacy is really what it's about, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you only get that through, interacting with other people, building those bonds and experiences and burning some of those bridges, man. Again, you're not going to learn how to fix something if you don't break it. But the big thing is don't let it destroy you, man. Don't let it destroy you. Just keep working on it.
I'm glad to hear that you, with everything you, you've experienced, you have no regrets, which is good to hear. I do have a question regarding like your military service. Does the fact that you didn't deploy at all, does that ever bother you to this day?
So yeah, actually, it bothered me for a very long time. A very long time. Like I said, having some motherfucker just go, oh, you didn't deploy? Like, man, I wanted to put hands on some people that were just so fucking disrespectful in that regard.
Yeah.
Like basically eating like fucking Doritos on their couch, like talking shit. I'm like, all right, like that's fine. Like that's your opinion, but like there's no reason to like belittle someone's experiences because they don't meet your inflated idea. Like, sorry, I'm not lone survivor. Like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that shit happened to that one guy. That's why it's called.
And
Lone
dude,
Survivor.
I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And yet,
Guy's
that's like what
goddamn
people.
Badass though.
Oh, you're not Rambo? I don't want to be fucking Rambo either. Are you kidding me? Like, no, I don't want a body. Yeah, I don't want a body
not
count.
Rambo either.
Yeah, right. So it's just but I'll tell you what though.
Wait.
Like I said, like the
Rambo's
deploying thing
not
was kind of important to me because of the fight or flight reflex. Like I wanted to know that when shit hits the fan, I can maintain my composure and figure shit out. I didn't want to be someone that froze and then someone gets hurt because of my inaction. And yeah, that's something I lived with for a long time. And then I'll tell you what, I was actually I was with my girlfriend at the time, and we were at my house, and my back door for whatever reason just slammed open. And without thinking, man, I was up and I was moving towards the door. Like, all right, it's 11 o'clock at night. Who's coming in my house? And no shit, man, that was like such a fucking relief to me. Like after it was done, and thankfully no one was coming in the house.
Yep,
but
still
my
got it.
girlfriend was like, "What the fuck was that?" And I was like, "I thought it." She's like, "Yeah, but like, put some clothes on." I was like, "Oh
Right,
yeah,"
no
like,
time.
but like,
Just a
to
fucking
me,
war boner.
right? Yeah, right. I'm like, well, yeah. But that was the confirmation. Like, I didn't even know I needed that. Like, all right, if I am scared, my reaction isn't to throw her in front. Like, my reaction was to find out what the thing was. And I can't tell you how much I needed that little scary moment to affirm in myself, like, that's how it is. And then, since then there have been some other issues, especially going out drinking with friends. Some people get rowdy. And, it's one of those things where, everyone that joins the military, like, they join for their own reason. They pick whatever job they do for their own reason. But I gotta say, there's a special breed of people that pick infantry, mechanized infantry armor. There's something weird with all of us. There really is. I mean, and same thing with special forces. I mean, sure, I like to think that at my peak I could have maybe done it, right? But at the end of the day, even when it's over with,
sorry guys, I'm out there.
even when you're done, right, and everything's done and the training's over, you're done with buds or whatever school then it starts, and then you start being like, fuck that, dude. Like, basically, when I finish the STAR course, I want to retire from the military. Like, that's it, man. Like, I'm done. And no, that's what these guys do to start, and that is a different breed. But, like, the day-to-day combat arms guys, like, I give them a lot of credit because, again, like, you might not have the most glamorous time in the military. You might not get to do things other than, guard detail or straight up just cleaning motor pools. But at the same time, at one point or another, you signed a check to Uncle Sam saying, for anything up to and including my life. And I have the utmost respect for these guys. And I only bring up combat arms specifically because every day is so fucking dangerous. I mean, I almost got killed just moving a tank in the motor pool because they put a new driver as we were putting a tow bar on, and we're backing the tank up. And, thank God we had the tow bar a couple inches too high because that motherfucker gunned it in reverse and pinned the two tanks together. So,
lost a finger like that. Well, it just
dude.
got dropped, but
yeah, but
we had a buddy lose a finger, and then another guy actually bought that finger from him and put it in a jar and had it preserved for a long time. It's a true story.
Like I said, the military is weird in general, but combat arms is just a little bit weirder for whatever reason. Yeah, although the what is it, S4, which one's like the security intel guys?
Like the S.
They're the weirdest ones, man.
The course guys.
Gavin and Wynn, wherever you two are, you guys were weird guys, but hey, you guys were good at what you did. But sometimes I looked over at like Echo Company and Supply, and I was like, why didn't I go that route? Because those guys are doing everything that we need to survive in our environment. They're providing the fuel, the food, the bullets, everything. And at the same time, those jobs are also developing real-world applicable skills.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if you're looking at the military as a means of advancing your civilian life, through either the GI Bill or work experience, then yeah, I would recommend looking outside of combat arms because the risks associated with combat arms are very high and very real on a normal Monday to Friday schedule. There's just risk there that could expose you to things that you see or see friends lose a fucking finger. Buy that finger and preserve that finger. Like, there's some shit that might not sit well with some people, but that's normal. Yeah, that's like an average day. So, yeah, I mean, before you join, joining the military, like, it's voluntary. No one's putting a gun to your head and telling you to sign up. But at the same time, don't treat it like a minimum wage job. Don't treat it like it's your only option. Like, you should be very proud to put that flag on your shoulder, and you should be very proud to have the opportunity to stand in formation at 5 in the morning and go on a battalion run because that's what you're signing up for. That's what you're volunteering for, that camaraderie, that history, that unit pride. I mean, that's not something to be taken lightly. It's not something to be, in my opinion, to be treated like any ordinary job. It's service for a reason. You're devoting yourself to our nation's protection, whether you agree with the mission or not, because and that's something, with my uncle being a Vietnam vet, you see the civilian side sometimes disagreeing with the military side. And, I think when you see a soldier or a veteran in public and you don't agree with the mission, I think you're weak, and I think you're pursuing a soft target if you go and talk shit to that service member. I think you're venting at the easiest target rather than looking at the person actually issuing the orders, which is very high up. That guy is straight up serving for whatever reason motivates him to protect his country. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves is hearing, whatever kind of slander people want to throw at a troop for being in Iraq or Afghanistan because, you know, they're on Reddit reading a post about how it was all a sham or something. You know, like, just have some respect, man. Like, it's so much bigger than just being someone that carries a rifle. At least it was for me and the people I serve with. It was never about getting a paycheck. It was about putting on that uniform and representing the best aspects of our country and doing joint efforts with other countries. Like, yeah, that shit hits home, and yeah, that's big to me. So yeah, that's just another message I'd like people to take away, that if you're gonna talk shit to someone, write your representative, write your congressman, you know, write them. But don't be spitting on soldiers, man. I mean, one, it's probably gonna be bad for your health, and two, it's just not a good look for anybody. Like, grow up, grow up. Crazy.
Kyle, did you like when you were in you talked about that camaraderie and brotherhood that we have in the armed services? Like, how was that transitional period for you? Like, I know you had those buddies that went, you know, that did that help having someone with you to go to, you know, going to California, or having, like, did the absence of brotherhood, how was that when you got out?
It's super hard. I mean, you know, I went to California with my really good friend that I grew up with, you know, and he was in the Marines. But you know, Marines and Army are oil and water in their own regard, you know. Yeah. So it was, you know, and I've talked to my friends too that are getting out more recently than me. Like, you know, I did my 4 years, and a lot of my friends are doing 10 plus or so, and I give them a heads up that it's going to be about a 3-year transition period. And I know that sounds like a long time, but it's basically 1 year of accepting that the military is something that you did. It's not who you are. Yeah. You know, and I know that's weird, but you got to realize that when you separate and you get that DD-214, for the most part, that safety blanket is removed, you know, and it's just it's a job that you did. And it's hard for a lot of people to let that go. And it kind of brings a stigma into the civilian world that I notice that the civilian world's not very fond of. Like, sure, a lot of them appreciate our service and thank us for what we did. But at the same time, by sort of expecting that kind of respect, or sort of expecting to have like an in for being in the military, you got to realize that to a civilian, that's going to bother them, because where you devoted yourself to your country and your service, they devoted themselves to their family and their careers, and like they made a different choice. So, you know, I think it's important to realize that you do have to separate when you're active and when you're out, and you gotta realize that you shouldn't be starting everything with, well, you know, I was in the military. Like, yeah, that is something you did.
Chapter closed.
Yeah, and now we're doing something else. You know, otherwise, you know, I've noticed that a lot of guys ask me about that. Like, you know, how do I do this? Like, why didn't I get this job or whatever? And I'm like, dude, like, yes, we're all thankful for you. And, you know, again, talking about combat arms versus other jobs in the military with real world applicable skills. Surprise, surprise, shooting a tank does not transfer well in the legal environment. You know, no one gives a flying fuck
Not yet.
Yeah. Load that brief.
That's the world I one day want to live in.
Guilty. Bang.
Come on, fucking on the way.
Yeah, man. So I mean, that's something I say. So it's really a year of turning off the military mindset. Stop knife handing people. You know, stop knife handing. You know, you don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. and go for a jog. If you want to, sure, but it's not compulsive anymore. Maybe work on not drinking. I know drinking is a very good friend for people that are feeling lonely, especially getting out of the military. Because it's an easy friend that's always there. You know, it's always there. It's always accessible. But again, it quickly becomes from a habit to an addiction, and that's a whole nother thing that you got to fight. So really, I think that camaraderie is important so that you can routinely check up on people without making it seem like a checkup. Yeah, you know, that's a good point. If you keep contact with people, there's nothing weird about checking in once a month and being like, hey man, like what's going on. But then if you're only doing it after hearing through the grapevine that they're not doing well, then you know it doesn't come across as genuine, and a lot of times it turns off a conversation before it begins. So yeah, again, like keeping radio comms on is super important. with anybody. I mean, if you care about them, there's no reason for you to. And a phone works both ways, man. Like, stop waiting for someone to call you. You know, reach out to them because odds are you're both doing the same fucking thing, just waiting.
Yeah, just get drunk in Vegas, and eventually you'll call your battle. And
Yeah,
2
exactly.
months later, a podcast will be born.
Who did that?
And then like 2
there
months
you
later,
go.
like we're actually causing an impact. I feel like in people's lives, which is something. I mean, whether I know, either if it's one person or 100 people, it's it's huge. It's something we could have never even imagined being here doing. So,
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
Right. And that's kind of the thing, right? Like, I want to show people that this isn't unique necessarily to all of us. Like, we're all experiencing the same thing one way or another. So, like, just share your experiences, share your stories, and share how you're going about it. I mean, I know I'm not going about things perfectly, so maybe someone can reach out to me and be like, hey, try this or something, whatever. It's all about keeping the communication network open. That's it.
Right. Absolutely. It's like the first rule of war, it's like you got to establish communication. You're not gonna do shit without establishing that communication, like you said. So
Fuck yeah.
I'll let you go ahead, Bout, and I just wanted to squeeze that in.
No,
there.
that was a good one. I like that one. They what Kyle, what Turner was saying, like, speaking of what we do, like, the whole reason, we did this was unfortunately because, like you said, sometimes it's too late to. It's it's a little bit too late to have that communication because you're reaching that's what we did. We reached out to each other unfortunately after one of our brothers took his own life, but and that's what fueled this whole project, was to prevent that from happening in the future.
Right.
So, like, what about you personally? How has your mental health been or journey been since you got out? With all this stuff going
honestly,
on?
yeah, it's been super rough. I can't advocate for therapy more than what I can. I mean, therapy has been something that, and I know it's got like a stigma to it of paying someone to pretend to be a friend or something. Yeah, no, I mean, just having a neutral third party to give you an unbiased opinion of what you're going through and what you're trying to express, or some people don't have the ability to communicate well. So to have someone that is a professional speaker, professional listener, they can garner from your body language, from what your experiences are, and kind of point you in a direction that maybe you weren't aware of. And it's all about having another bridge, having another point of access to talk to someone, another resource. But the biggest thing to me is a neutral, unbiased, an impartial third party. That's what I think is so important, because, you don't want to surround yourself with yes men. You don't want to surround yourself with downers. You really don't. You don't. You want to have a candid
yes
opinion.
Man. That shit will have you thinking that you're like best friends with people, and the next thing you get on an IOU list.
Well, so like me personally, one of my biggest like personal rules is if I'm talking to someone and a third party's name is brought up, I make a point of not, like, I generally say, they're not here, so I don't feel comfortable talking about them while they're not here. Like, that's how I go about it. If they're not a part of the conversation, I don't feel comfortable talking about them, unless it's, super important or something. Yeah. But yeah, I think there's too much drama, too much social media of, like, especially growing up in New Jersey, that Jersey housewife shit is just, it's just cancer, dude. Like, it's just cancer. That's not how people should behave. It's terrible. But an eye-opening and a heart-opening experience was while I was at law school in Duquesne. They have a great program where it's the Veterans Court. It's a drug rehabilitation mental health court, and it's an intervention court, meaning that and it's kind of experimental. Like, it's not a widespread thing. The first one was established in Buffalo, and then Pittsburgh kind of picked up on the idea. And by interdiction court, I mean that if you're arrested for a mental health related incident or a drug abuse related incident, alcohol related, whatever, the purpose is to get in front of your criminal charges before you go in front of a judge and you get convicted or whatever it is. It's meant to focus on getting to the root of the problem, getting you the support and help you need, so that you aren't likely to, because if you're an addict or if you're suffering from a chronic mental illness and you're just locked in a box, you
Yeah.
will almost 100% go back. You know, you will reoffend. And it was absolutely incredible. I was fortunate enough to, in my second year of law school, to just be a part of the court, you know, through the school. And basically, we would meet with clients. We would talk them through the process, go with them to court, and observe their proceedings and how they're interacting with the VA's facilities, the court's facilities, and with the idea of before they go to court and they're criminally charged and prosecuted, can they fix themselves?
Yeah.
And it was absolutely incredible. I mean, I don't want to throw stats around because I'm not correct, but the recidivism rate is extremely high in the United States. I mean, the odds of you committing a crime, doing your time, and then committing another crime is extremely high, mainly due to mental health and drug offenses. I mean, addiction is a motherfucker, man.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone that's not addicted to anything cannot put themselves in the shoes of someone that's been addicted. I really believe that, and that's why a lot of times when you see the counselors that are most effective, they are prior users themselves. They are people that have been able to reform themselves and get the help and stick with it. And the people that go through it are the greatest support chain, because no one, I mean, same thing with battle buddies. I mean, I could say that I relate to you guys as much as we can in the military, but again, like if you have experiences deploying and being exposed to shit that others didn't, as much as we are the same, there are differences. You know, there are unique factors that I can't relate to. And it's the same thing, but the stigma that's attached to people that are suffering from mental health or drug abuse or really anything. I mean, if you look deep enough into a person's life and you see the troubles that they're going through and how they're processing it, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but no one taught me how to process my emotions. You know, I had to go out and find someone to talk to and,
Yeah.
you know,
I'm
go to
still
therapy.
learning.
No shit. So, I mean,
day.
you see people with anger problems. It's like, you know, you know, who knows? Maybe they've never been told to fucking figure it out, calm down, or they don't know how to calm down, you know?
I'm
And
just
it's-
now
it's-
being told to figure it out and calm down. So, because
Yeah,
I
right.
love the woman I'm married to very much, I've decided to start looking inward. And this, I mean, it started a few years ago, but I mean, every day's a struggle, and sometimes I can go weeks without anything happening, but sometimes I can literally be playing a video game, dude, and just be like, fuck, and just there you go. I'm like running through the house cussing at 2 a.m. Like
No shit, man. I mean, my temper's been with me, you know, my whole life, and the Army did nothing but just, you know, hone that temper, you know, and kind of channel it into competition and whatnot. But
it's like, oh, now you can make this thing useful. Now you can turn it into violent rage that you can lift a car with if needed. And,
right.
Not really.
And now
but,
let's teach you how to, you know, use every weapon we can figure out. Let's teach you tactics on clearing rooms. Let's do combatives, you know, hand to hand. Let's learn pressure points, and you know, you learn all
drop
this
kick
shit.
you out the fucking door when you smoke a little weed.
Yeah, right.
And then see what kind of let's see how long it takes you to bounce back and be resilient. I mean, it takes a while. This shit didn't happen overnight.
No, and you know, it's gotta be a killer too when people start, you know, as slow as we do learn. I mean, the U.S. Marijuana is becoming legalized everywhere, whereas 20, 30 years ago, you were doing hard time for possession in some places, you know. And it's just like, how many lives have been, you know, irreparably damaged because of you know, basically a misnomer or misclassification of this drug based on what?
Alcohol should be in its place.
Well, it's funny. I mean,
I'll say that.
there's no
It's
healthy
poison.
amount of alcohol. Yeah, like there's no healthy amount of alcohol to take. But yeah,
As soon as you have
can't turn
alcohol
on
in
TV
your blood,
without
you have alcohol poisoning. It's just to the point of how much you get. Whether
Yeah,
you get
right.
super sick or whatever the fuck, but like the effects of alcohol, like you being drunk and all woozy and shit, like that's fucking being poisoned.
Well, I'm telling you, man, I
it's
smoked
in
like
small enough doses that you could pass through your system, but if you don't pass that shit through your system and you continuously booze, man, like people float their livers like that, and
no question. It's
you
also
gotta-
one of the
you gotta
very few
process.
chemicals that can kill you from withdrawals. Yeah, there's not many things that can kill you when you try to get off it, but alcohol is surely one of them. But
It's just
it
a
was,
seltzer, guys. I'm just
it's
drinking
just
a
a seltzer. Yeah, hey, don't get me wrong.
I just
I
got
enjoy my drinks
vodka
too.
martinis in here. No, I actually don't. That's just water.
But I'll tell you what, growing
Friday
up,
night, I'm hoping to go upstairs and watch Avatar with the wife tonight.
Oh, the new one's out?
Yeah, it's on. You can rent it. It's streaming, or you can go see it in the theaters.
I
We haven't been
love
in theaters
that
since before the
technology, dude.
before the vid.
Yeah,
And I got
the new
Paramount.
cable box is just these streaming
Yeah.
services, bastards.
Yep, it's building in the basement.
But I just want to say the marijuana thing kind of blew my mind because I probably smoked like once or twice in high school. You know what I mean? Like it really wasn't a popular thing. Like we were more into drinking back then. So when I did smoke, I just got super paranoid. Definitely took too much. For the first time or whatever.
It happens to people.
Yeah, right. It
for
happens
sure.
to just about everybody. I mean, I tried watching Pineapple Express, and me being me, I took my little like $10 bag of weed and I put it in my dad's cigarette and just ripped that joint like it was nothing. I didn't make it past the black and white part of the movie before I'm knocking on my older sister's door, like I'm gonna fucking die. Like open it up, I need help. So when I went out to California, now I'm working for this company developing this app with my buddy. It was legal there. I got my medical card and I tried it, and I tell you what, I'm just like, this is it? This is what everyone's so fucking mad about? Like, oh man. I thought I was going to see
man.
fairies and pixies and shit. Like, I don't know.
That's like a way different class of drugs, man. We were talking about that shit last time though. Do an ayahuasca retreat.
Oh
if you're
yeah, I'll do it.
We're gonna get this thing lined up. He can't do it because he works for the uncle still. But yeah, dude, I want to get an ayahuasca retreat going. I think Eddie Lowry, he's gonna get in with us. He was on a couple weeks ago. I mean, dude, honestly, I think we should all do an ayahuasca retreat together, and then like literally like in the same room afterwards talk about it. And record.
Dude, no
shit.
question. Give me that shit and just duct tape a GoPro to my forehead and let's just see what happens.
Well, they have places you can do it now. It's like full on retreats, like where they take care of you. It's like in the tents and they bring you the tea, and it's like a week long deal, bro.
dude.
It's like a whole
That's
deal.
Yeah, I mean, let me know,
legit.
man. I mean, I'm the type of person where, I don't like hearing the word impossible or never or anything like that because I feel like it's just a matter of time before we learn new shit and these especially like marijuana and stuff. I mean, it's straight up a plant. No one's altering it. No one's gotta break it down into anything or synthesize it or and it just makes me really curious about, I'm sure it could be abused, and I'm sure it is abused by some people, but at the same time, when you look at the risks compared to other things that are openly available to people, it just really makes me a little confused, because if something works for one person, it's no way guaranteed to work for someone else. So I don't know why people assume everyone should be doing the same thing as them, Like people are so judgmental, it seems, and it's just like, dude, just because something works for you or works for your friend group, that does not mean that you should judge and belittle others for getting a different experience from something else. Like it just drives me nuts, and it's amazing the silly shit people argue about that does not matter outside of that argument, and yet we burn bridges over it. People stop talking. I mean, you go to family dinners nowadays, and someone drops politics, and half the room's divided, and it's like, what the fuck?
dude.
I thought we all loved each other. Like,
Yeah, and then
goddamn.
there's me who's like, all right, I'm leaving. I don't want to
Yeah,
talk to
like,
either
I
of
have
you.
no interest in it. I have none.
And let me ask you this though, while we're on the subject, is it because you can't get a straight answer out of either side when you're trying to get it like an informed answer on like a real subject? You can't really go anywhere and be like, oh, this is a credible source because this side says that side's not a source, and this side says that side's not credible, and so it's just this never-ending game of cancelization, and then it's just like there's really no truth. I don't know what's going on ever, and I'm
Well,
like,
to me, I always find it
behind to
interesting. Yeah, well,
but then you try to ask someone, and it's like, well, fuck them, they're wrong, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
fuck them, they're wrong. You're like, well, you guys are both idiots because you're falling for it.
basically, yeah, because I mean, people love to discuss politics specifically, especially like different legislature, which usually comes down to either limiting or expanding upon rights, right? Or not even rights, but like privileges in a lot of cases. I mean, what they're talking about with, the LGBTQ community and schools and book bannings and things like that, those are not yes or no questions. They're absolutely not. They are
Yeah, it's
very
not black and white
open-ended.
areas. It's very gray.
there are multiple levels to the discussion. And when people especially start going to the legal route, everyone thinks that the law is black and white. No, that shit is an opaque gray, if not a matte black.
It's all, like,
it's
the same
either,
color.
yeah,
Like,
right.
It's like you gotta can I?
Yeah, if you're lucky, you can argue the law. You know, you can look at something and say, look, maybe this doesn't apply to these circumstances. And that's the gray area. That's where you're allowed to fight for your rights. Otherwise, it's just a straight up prohibition. Like, no, you can't fucking do that. Knock it off. And, you know, people are trying to overturn it. And we have a system that allows us to expand and, you know, retract whatever our laws are. And that's good. But at the same time, people are asking questions that are driven more by emotion than it is by logic. And, you know, one of my law professors said it best. He goes, everyone is under the idea that they're entitled to their opinion. And while maybe you are outside of this classroom, inside this classroom, you're entitled to a reasonable fact-based argument. And I really do try to apply that to everything. Like, I'm an emotional guy. I mean, I get fired up. But, you know, the difference between 20-year-old Kyle and 30-year-old Kyle is I used to just act on emotion. Now, emotion is more of a flare to me. It's like a signal flare. Like, all right, why am I triggered for this right now? Like, why am I feeling so emotionally, you know, vested in this conversation? And then that kind of allows me to take a step back and dive into where these emotions are coming from. And that there is the real topic at issue. You know, it might be an umbrella question, but if you follow the anger, the hate, or the excitement, or whatever that emotion is, that's going to lead you to what the overall key issue is. And I think if more people took the time to dive into it and see what the fundamental issue is, a lot of the other stuff is going to be dicta. It's going to be fluff. It's going to be stuff that's kind of inconsequential or shit that you agree upon, you know? So again, you know, when you sit down with someone that you know you love, someone you know you get along with, then that's what you got to go into the conversation with. And everything else is just trying to sort out where we stand on certain things. And I really don't think anything should go further than that.
Yeah, I mean, if you could find the people to have those conversations, I'd love it. 'Cause like I said,
yeah, well, it's the same
like
thing
6
with
of
the
them
guys
out
that
there.
attack the soldiers. You know, the first one to spit on a soldier, like, dude, write your fucking representative. Go spit on your senator that passed the bill. Like, well, I'm not advocating for that. Don't fucking go spit on anyone. Jesus Christ.
Don't be surprised what happens.
Yeah, don't do that. But at the
Nobody
same
likes
time,
being spit
like,
on. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, but don't
even
go
spit on
after
don't
soft
spit on
targets.
people in general.
yeah, don't spit on anybody. But
Yeah, don't
but
go after
especially-
people that literally can't do anything. You know, like
Yeah.
you're on a camera. This dude's in uniform. You want to? He's like,
Right.
fucker.
No, that's it, man. Like you know, only bullies go after soft targets. That's how I look at it. And if you're
That's
picking
soft
fights
shit,
to
dude,
yeah, if you're picking fights, you just pick fights, and you know, you're just looking to I don't know, prove your point and show that you're the smarter person or you're the more ethical person. Like, save it, man. Like, there's enough shit going on day to day that we got to work with. I don't need to worry about going to Thanksgiving dinner and fucking up my uncle. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, it's
I just
stupid.
want some fucking turkey.
Yeah, right,
I'm
right.
trying to eat, motherfucker.
But
You
no,
don't
like,
shut
dude,
up.
You hear a family straight up like going into like Hatfield McCoy type feuds over like, you know, dumb shit, and it's like, all right, guys, relax.
Yeah.
No, they said this. Like, all right.
Yeah. No,
I
it's
think
crazy.
we got off the point.
I don't know, man. I think it's all good. I mean,
I mean, no, it's definitely good because it's definitely like what we believe. What I mean, I know we believe in here is like I'm one of those people that's like, I just want my gay friends to be able to smoke weed at their wedding. You know what I mean? Like, I'm simple.
No,
you know?
no question. I mean, dude, like I said, life's hard enough, man. We don't need to be belittling each other for shit that generally doesn't impact our day to day life. You know, and also like stop exaggerating things. Everyone exaggerates everything nowadays. It's crazy. You know, and stats. You know, it's the internet of stats is just.
Oh
you know,
my
I
God.
could make stats of anything, man. Like, oh, did the news do a survey? Like, all right, you know, I've never once been fucking surveyed ever. You know. Like, never, ever. I don't know anyone that's been surveyed. Like, I would love to do a little forensics investigation on where these goddamn numbers come from that's blasted all over the media because it confuses the hell out of me. And yet people take this shit as gospel and go ham with it. It's crazy.
Yeah,
So,
they don't even
yeah,
verify
everyone
where the
calm down.
information Comes from. They're just like, oh yeah, I read this and then that's you know.
From
that's
where?
what I know now.
YouTube. All right. You got me. You got
Yeah,
me.
some guy
Yep.
who's sitting on his computer. You know,
Sounds
knows
like
the truth.
Yeah,
Those are
believe
my
me,
kids.
I love arguing. I can debate all day, but I don't debate you. I debate the issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm never gonna attack you as a person. I mean, you could believe in hurting little dogs is fun for you, and I'll be like, dude, you're a sick fuck. I don't condone it. I think you're wrong, and I might report you, but I'm not gonna
Yeah,
put my
probably
hands
gonna
on
tell
you.
somebody.
Yeah, and that's it, man.
I'm
Like,
definitely gonna wind up with some dogs.
dude, you see people like lose their temper for 5 minutes, and it ruins their life.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Adrenaline and rage is probably the most dangerous cocktail out there. And, I know veterans are almost, soldiers in general are kind of trained to put those two together. Embrace the suck, get mad, but then embrace your training. And the training's not to be nice, But again, I say 3 years for a transition period because you have to forget that shit. You got to let it lie. You got to tuck it in a box, and you got to put it somewhere. Put it somewhere that you can access it when you need to, but it shouldn't be out all day. And then you're going to spend another year kind of figuring out who you are, who you want to be, exploring the GI Bill, exploring possible career paths. And then it's probably another year of just building that structure and integrating into that new role. And I hope people do it faster, but anyone that's just jumping out, getting that DD-214, I would straight up say 3 years. Think about it as doing a stint in college. It takes basically college years to reacquaint yourself with the civilian world.
That makes sense. I mean, because if the Army specifically, because I know we can all talk about that. The Army specifically, they broke us down in basic training and they built us back up exactly the way they wanted it to be. So
And sure
yeah,
fucking good.
That's a good point. It takes time. Transition takes time.
Yeah,
It took me,
Drill
it
Sergeant
took me-
Marquez or Malares, wherever you are, man, stay the fuck away from me.
I don't know how Turner's like he went like a 1 or 2 cycles after me, and he saw one of our drill sergeants at like some kind of.
I'm still friends with them on Facebook.
Dude, how the fuck are you friends with on Facebook, dude?
Yeah,
I'm
what's wrong with
definitely
you, man?
afraid of
No,
that, dude.
Because all right, so I'm gonna leave with this. We're gonna wrap it up with the answer to this question. Because and we won't say his name because Boughton has his own personal history with the man that's
That dude does
pretty
not
fucking
like me.
hilarious. But I mean, he was a tough drill sergeant. He was definitely a tough drill sergeant. He set a standard that was really, really fucking high. I'm personally glad I wasn't in his platoon because PT for me I wasn't the top guy and the PT thing, I was like middle of the road maybe. I got by sometimes. I wasn't a runner. Either way, I saw him when we were at NTC when he had came over and he was in Killer Troop. I think it was Killer Troop. And he was a completely different person. The drill sergeant hat was off. Sergeant First Class was there. The leader of soldiers, I met him after that, and he's a completely different man. Like, to be able to put that hat on and take it off like that it's kind of
That is pretty
like
incredible.
It's kind of impressive, and then just to see the kind of following him now still, he's still exactly the same. I'm pretty sure he's Command Sergeant Major at this point.
I just want to tell this
He's not
story
gonna get the
of my
rest
drill
his
sergeant
life.
because I'll never forget Easter 2011. I'm not gonna say his name, but god damn it, you know who you are. We got woken. Well, there was like a fire alarm that went off one day, and our drill sergeants discovered that there is an intercom system throughout the barracks. You can just access and talk to the whole building at once. And they discovered this right before Easter. So Easter morning, I don't know, maybe like 0304, we get a wake up saying, all right, this drill sergeant's on duty. He's going to give us a chance to clean the whole barracks. And if by 05, if everything's clean, we can have a peaceful Easter and, go to church and do whatever it is that we do on Easter. And dude, we just started cleaning. And of course, he goes up the first step and there's like Ajax on the step. And he's like, all right, leadership, get in the day room, bring a towel in your canteen. So, I just made like squad leader. So I go in there and no shit, he's there with a putter, a golf ball, and his Mickey Mouse coffee cup. And he's like, I'll make a deal with you, privates. He goes, if I make this putt, you guys can go to bed and enjoy your Easter. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. He sets down the cup, puts the ball down like 3 feet, and he starts doing some practice putts. He's lining it up. No shit, this guy Barry Bond wind up and drills that ball off the wall. And he looks us right in the eye and goes, "Oh shucks, privates, I missed." Dude, he smoked the dog shit out of it. I will never forget that, dude. Oh shucks, privates, I missed.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
man.
actually, well, he smoked the shit out of me in basic training once too. Because his platoon, they were like, they were like up on our floor, like barking their chant and like doing their thing, and it was like end of the night, dude. I'm just kind of tired and over it. So they were like, who runs this house, bad boys or whatever, and I said something like who sucks that dick. Something like that.
Jesus.
And then, boy, dude, I'm talking like within seconds.
You're a braver man
Who said
than
that?
me.
Who said that, private? I'm just like, oh, fuck, I think I did.
Oh, fuck.
Well,
Your actions have
consequences.
consequences.
Yeah, dude. My knees still feel those consequences to this day. I was humping heat rounds for a long time that night. I actually walked up to him. He was on CQ. I walked up to him down at the desk. So he left me in his floor humping heat rounds that whole night. Past all his soldiers who I said they all suck dick.
man.
So they're watching me do this, humping these heat rounds, and eventually I was just like, I'm fucking done, right? So ballsy private that I already am, I go downstairs and I'm standing at parade rest, looking him dead in his eyes. He looks over at me just like what the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah,
you
dude,
know,
like,
I didn't
goddamn
come
it.
get you yet. Drill sergeant, I'm done. He's
Oh,
like-
I'm just done.
Yeah, I was like, I'm done. He was like, really? Okay, yeah. He's like, all right, let's go upstairs. So we go upstairs, and mind you, this is the night before the 12-mile ruck march, So he's like,
The Nick
takes
at
me
Night?
yeah, and he takes me to
shit.
our room, and he's like, say our deal or whatever. Say the bad boys run this house. So I went into every bay in my platoon, and I said it, and I'll stand by it to this day, and I'll tell you why, you motherfuckers. I said it because not one of you actually came downstairs and had my back in that platoon level. So I had no problem saying that you all suck dick, and they didn't. And I went to bed that night and slept like a baby with broken, hurting knees. But I did make the ruck march.
I don't know, man. I still have nightmares of my one drill
Looking
sergeant
dead in
that
his face
took
when
the
I'm done.
fucking the firefighter axe out of the case, with that like hook on the end. And the dude was just dragging it along the hallway while we're all sleeping. So, I wake up and someone wakes me up and they're like, hey, you got fire guard. And I open my eyes and it's fucking Drill Sergeant Hodges with this axe just staring at me. I'm like, I'm gonna shit my pants. Like, what the fuck? And he's like, come on, Private, you got fire guard. And he's like, got the axe. I'm like, all right. And I get up, and I do my fire guard. And then in the morning, and the lights turn on. Well, you know how you buff the floors? Dude, everywhere he went with that axe is just a line. Dude, he went to all of our beds, and, no one knew. And I was like, fuck me, man.
Dude's a genius.
Dude is a genius because I was never more on guard from that moment forward. Fuck. So, yeah, they might be sick, but they know what they're doing, man. Everything they do is fucking... It's going to make you better, or it's going to break you. One or the other.
It's funny you mentioned fire guard, and I keep saying that this is it, but I swear to God, dude, this is it, because I want to go upstairs and see my wife before she passes out. But
Yeah,
fire
buddy,
guard,
let's
dude,
do it.
The head drill sergeant, right? And I'm not a dirtbag. I catch myself in dumb situations because sometimes I get tired, I go to sleep. So I was on fire guard.
I get tired of this.
I get tired. I was on fire guard, and I'm like, it's 3 or 4 in the morning. Man, it's pretty quiet. Drill sergeant must be sleeping or whatever. So I'm a lay on top of my bed with my shoes on, and just lay here for a bit, and get 5 seconds to kind of, and you already know in basic, you get that 5 seconds, boy, you're zonked.
You gotta be snorting that hand sanitizer.
Yeah. So I'm waking up, and it's our senior drill sergeant, the head boss drill, and he's like, hey, Private, why do you got your shoes on? Why don't you take your shoes off and get some sleep? And I'm like, yes, drill sergeant. So I fucking take my shoes off and I go to sleep. 20 minutes later, who's my fucking fire guard? And I'm just
man.
Was it the
here
same?
comes
Was
Private
it him?
Turner. Yeah, the same drill sergeant. He was looking for me. I'm sleeping. He told me to fall asleep, so here I go. I'm like, "Hey, drill sergeant, it's Private Turner. I was over here sleeping. You told me to fall asleep, so go down to my fucking office." And I'm just like, "God damn it, dude! I'm fucking. I can't remember if this was before or after. I'm just like, God damn it. So I mean, he was actually really cool about it that night. He was like, man, you know, he gave me like the the importance of not falling asleep on fire guard. He really could have fucked my shit up that night, but
Yeah, what the fuck? Why didn't
he,
dude? Like, my unit.
I think because of how funny and just how brutally honest I was. Like, again,
I could see
brutal
that.
honesty will get you out of more shit than you will ever fucking imagine, dude.
I could
pulled
say. I
over
mean,
one
you
time.
gotta understand,
You know,
those
I told
guys are
Joe,
getting
well, I was
bored,
going
too.
95 and I ran 3 stop signs. Why the fuck wouldn't you pull me over? Fucking
Yeah.
idiot. You know,
I
but-
believe it. I mean, those guys are so used to their day to day that when they do see someone like Private Turner that's just like, I'll kick my shoes off and take a nap, they're like, what the? All right, fuck. Jeez.
No, because I had my shoes on, and he woke me up to tell me to take my shoes off.
Yeah,
That's
right,
what
and
I
you're
thought
like,
was the
okay,
funniest thing. I'm like,
I'll
yeah,
kick 'em
Roger,
off.
Right, I
Roger,
followed
take a
orders.
nap.
You
Got
told
it.
me. I was gonna
Yeah.
stand on that. I was gonna die on that hill, dude. You told me to fall asleep.
No, that's wild, man. I mean, dude, it was just group punishment from the day I got there to the day I left. I mean, I got smoked looking for my parents at graduation. I was in my ASUs all dressed up and went back into my barracks, grabbed my duffel, and I walked in the day room. He's like, you know, Easter guy is like, oh, welcome, Private. Take it, front leaning rest position, move. And I swear to God, I just looked at my buddies, looked at the door, and I fucking booked it. I was like, deuces, and I see you later. And I ran right back to the stage. Hey, thanks a lot for having me, guys. That was cool.
Hey, man, no, we really appreciate you coming on. I don't mean to cut you short. We're definitely gonna have
Are you
to.
kidding
get
me? I
back
need
on
that
soon.
round of applause every time I complete a story.
Yeah, no, dude, we like to sometimes end with first and foremost. I like to pop this on there,
Powered by Riverside FM.
but maybe not for much longer. We might be going to a different platform here soon. And
You
yeah,
got that,
man,
Riverside? Step it up.
At the end of the day, you know, for all you listening, we really appreciate every follow, every download, every listen, every review. You know, everybody reaching out, wanting to get on. We got a whole list full of people that want to get on. I think we got like another 8 episodes lined up for you guys to all different stuff, man. Some great guests wanting to be on. So pay attention, follow us on all the socials. KZ's doing a lot of great stuff with the reels and the TikTok and all that stuff. And yeah, man, let's get this thing growing. Thank you guys
Yeah,
so
if I could
much
just
for
say
coming.
one last thing.
Absolutely.
You know, anyone going through anything, I know my name's on here. I don't know if they'll include my email or anything, but reach out to me if you guys have any fucking questions or any concerns or you're going through some shit. Like, you might not know me, I might not know you, but you best believe I'm here to help, you know? So
Hell yeah.
please take that to heart and don't be afraid to reach out.
Hell yeah, man. We're all
Hell
together
yeah, dude.
now.
Yep. So thanks
All
again,
right,
guys.
Well,
Really.
hey, this is for everybody listening. You made it, everybody. You made it. Give a cheers to
Yeah,
yourself.
buddy.
A lot of times people don't take that time out to thank themselves for getting through it all. So thank you guys. Have a good night.